Level 8, Fix and Flip Homes. Lesson number 4.
Hi, I'm Kitty Russian, and welcome back to level number 8, Fix and Flipping. Lesson number 4, Recap. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground, nearly 7 hours of straight to the point, life transformational, wealth creating strategies that's going to allow for you to fix and flip houses in your city for a profit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to recap and cover just about everything that we discussed that I can remember because we covered a lot, so that we can bring it home to allow you guys to have a better understanding of how to implement this wealth creating model in your city. So let's get started. Now, we talked about identifying a fix and flip deal. Now, here is how you're going to determine if it's a good deal or not. Now, we covered this already, but I just want you guys to understand how we incorporate this particular model into our business plan. Price, ARV, rehab cost is going to determine profit. Okay, so let me repeat myself. We're going to determine if it's a good deal, that distressed, dilapidated, junky looking property that we're considered buying, based on the price. Are we buying it for a good price that's going to allow for us to be able to turn a profit? That's going to be determined by the ARV, the after repair value on that property. And what is the rehab cost? All those factors are critically important to know so that you can have a clear understanding if you're going to be able to make money on that property or not. So for instance, let's say we bought a house for $50,000. Let's say the ARV is $100,000. Well, then the repair cost cannot exceed maybe more than $15,000 because we still need to be able to pay our closing costs, our commissions to our realtors. We're going to have holding costs. We're going to have taxes. So we want to make sure that we know the numbers and that the numbers work before we decide to buy that piece of property. So I want to make sure I stress this. When you're identifying a good fix and flip deal, you need to understand that you are buying it for a good price and that you know clearly what the ARV is. And we're going to talk about in a little later how to determine ARV, which you guys already know. This is just a recap, I forgot. Duh, Kenny. And rehab costs, because all those factors are going to determine what your profit is going to be. One other factor that's critically important as well, and we talked about this, is understanding location. Where are we buying this property at? Is it a rental area? You remember that first house I almost got stuck with? 310 21st Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida. I ended up making $37,000 on that deal. However, I could have lost my shirt because that was a rental market, a rental area, as opposed to a retail area. So when we are fixing and flipping houses, we want to make sure that there are houses in that area that are selling, because if they're not, you may be stuck with a rental property, and that's not what we're trying to do with fixing and flipping model. Now let's go ahead and move forward with how do we determine what the ARV is going to be? Based on market comparables. Market comparables. You can use MLS sold comps, not listed comps. Sold comps is going to determine exactly what properties have sold for in that particular area. So do not use listed comps, because it's listed for $200,000 doesn't mean that that comp should be used, because your house may not be able to sell for $200,000 if that one hasn't sold for $200,000. But if it's a sold comp, then it's a solid comp and you can use it based on other factors that we're going to talk about in a few seconds. So when we're determining our market comparables, again, we can use MLS, we can use RealQuest, we can use the tax assessor's office. We talked about that. And there's other different sites that you can use, but primarily the MLS, sold comps, and RealQuest, which is a byproduct of CoreLogic, is a good place to start in order to do your comparables. So you don't never want to go outside of a 1 mile radius whenever you're doing your comps. 6 months of sold properties is typically the furthest you should go back. Now sometimes you can go back 12 months, but typically 6 months are better, and it provides a better solid value to give you something to aim at, because this is a house that just recently sold 2 or 3 months ago, not last year. So try not to go back more than 6 months, and it's got to be very similar. Again, you guys cannot compare a house that is a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom home with a 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom home with a pool. It's got to be compared like apples to apples. Same thing. It's got to be very similar in its characteristics. Is it historic? Is it modern? You want to make sure that these properties match up together, because if they don't, then the value may not be accurate because it's two different type of homes. So again, when you're determining your ARV, you want to use your market comparables. RealQuest, we can use the MLS, Tax Assess Office. You can use Zillow, Trulio. Some of that data is not as accurate as the MLS and RealQuest, which I love to use. And that's primarily the only source that I use to determine sold comps in a particular area when I'm identifying a property that I'm considered buying, to make sure that I can sell it for a profit. Because again, as I mentioned to you guys over and over again, you make money on the buy, not the sell. You make your profit going into the deal, not going out of the deal. Because if you don't determine exactly the best purchase price, exactly how much it's going to cost to renovate it, exactly what you can sell it for, then you may go out of that deal with a loss if you're not accurate with your numbers. It's critically important. Now let's move on to number 3, historic versus modern. You want to make sure when you're buying properties to fix and flip them that you understand that particular area of town. It's almost like if you're buying in a rental area, then that's probably going to be a property that you rent. If you're buying in a retail area, that's a property that you can actually sell. You have to understand if it's a retail or rental area, because if it's a rental, again, you may not be able to sell it. Same thing applies with historic versus modern. There's certain areas of the city that are historic areas. They have historic homes. They may be 100 years old. So you want to make sure if you're going to fix and flip a historic home in that area that you keep it historic. If it is a modern home, then you want to keep it modern. You don't want to try to make a modern home into a historic home that's in a modern looking community, therefore making it challenging for you to be able to sell it. The same thing applies with the historic area. You don't want to try to make that historic home into a modern home when all the homes in that area are historic. Keep up with the aesthetics of the area and the home, and that will allow for you to be able to turn that property faster and for a better profit, as opposed to trying to make it into something that it's not meant to be based on the area of which the house is located at. So be very careful about that. Let's move on. Number 4, we talked about the importance of this and how they go hand in hand. Stay on budget and on schedule, because when you go over budget, then you're not going to be on schedule. If you move past, you have an 8-week schedule, then you're going to go over budget. They work hand in hand. If you have a budget of $50,000 and you have a 4-week schedule to complete that renovation, it goes into the 5th week. Now you have laborers and guys that need to be at that job site to finish up their job. And more than likely, because they're there, it's going to cost you more money, because it was only 4 weeks, but they've been there for 5 or 6 weeks. So stay on budget so you can stay on schedule. Stay on schedule so you can stay on budget. They work hand in hand together. If you're off schedule, your budget's going to be more. If your budget's more, then you're going to more likely experience being at that job site longer than you're supposed to. It is going to cost you more money. So be very, very anal about staying on budget, staying on schedule, because they work hand in hand. All right, so let's go to number 5, performing a takeoff. Now, you want to perform your takeoff when you have identified a good deal that you can fix and flip. You do not want to wait until you buy the property in order to then do the takeoff, because what if the renovation cost is more expensive than you realize? Well, you bought it, now you own it. Now you got to either take the loss or try to get rid of the property and sell it in as-is condition, and you're probably still going to lose. So you want to make sure that you do the takeoff before you close the deal. You want to know exactly how much it's going to cost to renovate that property. Well, how do you find this out? Once you're able to gain experience in this business, you'll be able to understand how to determine what the cost of the renovation is going to be without calling your whole team to go out to take a look at that property and to give you a price. I can walk into a house based on the experience of rehabbing hundreds of homes and know about how much it's going to cost to do the renovations. When I walk in, I can tell you, well, this is going to be a $50,000 rehab or a $30,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 renovations. Now, we're going to talk about the different types of rehabs. We've already talked about them, but we're going to recap so that you can understand. So those of you who do not have the experience of fixing and flipping homes and don't understand exactly how much it's going to cost in order to be able to determine that, then you want to call upon your electricians, your roofers, your carpenters, your landscapers, your cabinet people, HVAC, trim guys, concrete guys, tile, etc. So you're going to have to call upon these individual people in order to give you a price so that you can understand how much it's going to truly cost to do in order to do the renovation, so that you can submit your offer that's going to allow for you to be able to buy for the right price based on the ARV and the comps and knowing what your rehab cost is, so that you can in turn make a profit. And if you're not making a profit, then you should be in this business, because that's what it's about. Let's move forward. 3 types of rehab projects. The 3 types, again, cosmetic, partial, or full. You got cosmetic, simple paint and carpet, just a little bit of work. You got the partial, somewhere in the middle, and then you got a full rehab project. Now, your cost for your cosmetic, your partial, and your full is going to be dependent upon what? Geography. We talk about geography all the time. That's what's going to determine how much your labor is going to cost for that particular project. Prices could be different in Atlanta than they are in New York. Prices could be different from New York to California, from Tampa, where I live, to Kansas City. Prices are different. It's going to be based on geography. It's going to depend on how many contractors are in that area, because again, if there is a strong demand for contractors to do work, then their prices is going to be more expensive if it is a low supply of those particular vendors who can actually are qualified to do the work for you. So again, it depends on economics, supply and demand. If there's demand because there's a lot of properties that are selling like right now, then there's probably going to be a smaller pool of people who are available in order to do your work, and therefore you're probably going to pay more in order to do the renovations on these properties. So it's all going to depend on geography. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to part 2 of Fix and Flip level number 8, lesson number 4 recap. I'll see you in a few seconds. Here I am again, part 2 of level number 8, Fix and Flip recap, lesson number 4. So, permits, let's talk about that. We need to know if we're going to hire a contractor in order to do the work, or if we're going to hire them just to pull the permits. We talked about this before. Now, a contractor typically makes his money from marking up the labor and for buying the material. He'll mark that up as well. And that's how contractors make their money. But you can save yourself money if you have him just act as the contractor and pull the permits for you, and then you buy your own material and you supervise your own subcontractors. That's a great way of being able to save money. Now, you got to be very careful, because if it's a project that may be out of town, maybe it's best for you to just have a contractor do the entire job, as opposed to you trying to have him pull the permits, because you're in a different city and it may be difficult trying to supervise the subcontractors from out of town. So it may be better for him to just do all the work. So you have to factor that in, because again, you can save money by doing it yourself, but if you have a contractor, they're going to mark up the material and the labor. So you may have to factor that in before you buy that property, if it makes sense to even acquire it, if a contractor has to do the entire job for you. Now you need to know exactly how much you're buying it for. Let's say it's $100,000, and let's say he's going to charge you $100,000 to do the work. It's turnkey. When he's finished, someone can move in. Well, if that house is now worth at least $275,000, $300,000, it may not even make any sense when you take into consideration all the other costs that you're going to have with that particular property as well. So again, contractor versus you. He's going to mark up the labor material. If you have him pull the permits, you're going to be able to control your costs, therefore being able to get that project finished cheaper and put more money in your pocket. Flat fee for permits. How much are contractors typically going to charge in order to pull the permits? First of all, I just want to say this, that some contractors may not feel comfortable pulling permits for you. And the reason why is because it's kind of a gray area. They'll pull the permits if they trust you and they believe that you can get the job done. But you could jeopardize their license by them pulling the permits for you. And if something happens, they could be liable. If you don't get the job done like it's supposed to, they can be liable. If the inspector coming over to the property in order to do the inspections and it continues to fail, it may make him look bad. So you need to make sure that if someone's going to pull up permits for you, that you do what you're supposed to do to make sure that you protect that relationship and protect that guy's license. Because some contractors, again, may not even be willing to pull the permits for you. Typically, it's going to cost somewhere between $500 to $2,000. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. It depends on what city you're located in. Again, it goes that geography again, and it depends on the guy who's pulling the permits for you. How much does he charge? Okay? So when you are, again, acting as someone's pulling the permits and you are acting as your own, as the general contractor, you got to make sure that you supervise all your subcontractors. And if you do it successfully, you can save money and, again, put more money in your pocket. Let's go to number 3. Working with no permits. We talked about this. You got to be very careful, because if you're working with no permits, if you get busted, that could delay the project. And you always got those people riding around the neighborhood from code enforcement or people who work for the city looking for people who are actually renovating houses with no permit, so they can bust you and stop the project. Therefore, that's going to delay the process, because now you have to go and get the permits by hiring a contractor. And then you may have to get engineer designs if they if they mandate that you get them. And therefore, it's just going to be a delay in the project. A delay in the project, that means more money, because now budget and schedule, they work together. If you have a delay in the project, it's delaying your schedule. And if it's the delay in the schedule, it's supposed to be 5 weeks. Now it's 10 weeks. It's going to be more money that's going to come out your pocket to do the work on this particular property. So the budget's going to be more expensive. So you got to be very careful if you're not going to pull permits. Some things you can get away with. Maybe it's not a full rehab project. Maybe it's just kind of a cosmetic, carpet and paint, where you can get in there pretty quickly and get it done over the weekend. Sometimes if you're working without permits, working on the weekends is actually better, because Monday through Friday is typically when these people are riding around these neighborhoods looking for people that they can bust and stop their project. So weekends may be better. Maybe you're working on the weekends just to get most of the work done that may require permits, and then Monday you're just laying some carpet or painting the walls, which if the code enforcement or the city came out to inspect, they wouldn't ask of you to pull the permits. However, you got to be very careful, because sometimes they'll snoop around. And some cities and municipalities are even requesting that you get a permit, even if you're just changing out a window or changing the front door. And if they come out to your job site and they see a new sticker on the window, or if it appears to be new, or the front door appears to be new, they may say, hey, you need a permit for that door, because that's a brand new door right there. Now it's just delayed your project. So you got to be careful about not pulling permits. Because again, you're going to get red flagged. They're going to stop your project. They may impose fines against you as well. It's going to be delayed, therefore increasing your budget on that particular rehab project. And you may not be able to get your utilities turned on, because it may make it difficult. Because as soon as they find out that you're actually working on that house without a permit, they may call the local utility and say, hey, well, we're going to we don't want nobody to turn on the electric or the water over at that project, because they're working on that home without permits. They do that in a lot of different cities, including Tampa, Florida. And then if you get busted, again, it's just a delay in the project. It's going to cost you more money, and it may not be worth not pulling permits. So you got to be very careful about not pulling permits, because sometimes it's necessary, but other times it's not. You're going to have to make that call. Let's move on. Cost of fix and flip homes. Let's talk about the total cost of fixing and flipping a house. Not in detail as far as the numbers, but this is what you can anticipate paying if you're fixing and flipping. Number 1, acquisition cost. You got to buy the house. That's going to be the property. That's going to be commissions. If you're buying from a realtor, because the property is on a multiple listing service, you're going to pay a commission. And then you're going to have your closing costs. When you're buying a property, you have buyer's closing costs. When you sell a property, you have seller's closing costs. And then you're going to have your holding costs. You're going to have maybe property taxes. If you're getting the grass cut, so that code enforcement doesn't come over there and cite you because you have overgrown grass. And then you're going to have the cost of money. Did you borrow the money in order to do the renovation on that property? If you did, that's a part of your holding costs, and you have to factor that in. And we talked about this before. Rehab costs. How much is it going to cost to rehab the house? That is part of your cost. You're going to have to put out the money in order to do the renovation, either out your own pocket, or that money was escrowed because you had a hard money loan that you took out in order to buy it and acquire it. buy it and to do the renovations, and you can draw from the escrow account in order to do the renovations. And then the cost of sale, again, when you sell, just like when you're buying, you're going to have your closing costs, your commissions, and then they're going to prorate the taxes typically at the closing as well. So these are things that you have to consider when you're fixing and flipping the house to make sure that you're going to make a profit, because it's either going to be a plus or a negative. You're going to either make money or lose money. And we're in the business of making money. Let's move forward. Number 5, we talked about using a stager. I use stagers in order to stage my property because it makes it look better. Therefore, if it makes it look better, it makes it more marketable, they sell faster and for more money. So you may want to consider a stager when you're rehabbing these houses. Number 6, for sale by owner. Do you want to sell it yourself, or do you want to put it on the multiple listing service and have a realtor sell it for you? If you can sell it yourself because it's in a very desirable area, yes, you can save yourself 6% commission, sometimes a little bit more or less, depends on the geography. How much are realtors charging in order to do to sell properties in your particular area? So for sale by owner, you can sell it yourself. Maybe you put it on Craigslist, maybe you put a for sale sign in front of the house. Maybe there's companies out there that will only charge you a flat fee in order to put it on the multiple listing service, but everybody's going to call you when they're trying to inquire about buying that house. So but if you go that route, also you're going to have to be able to fill out the contract, to sell it, etc. So yes, you can save money, but you're going to have to make a determination if it's a good fit for you or not, based on your time, based on, do you want to take in all these calls from potential buyers? Do you want to execute the contract and draft it up? So that really depends on you. So this is part 2. We're going to go on to part 3, which is going to conclude Fix and Flip. I'll see you in a few seconds. Hey, I'm back. Now, before you get started fixing and flipping houses, you have to understand the rehab process. The rehab process. Now, again, the rehab process is going to be determined by if it's a cosmetic, a partial, or a full rehab process. In this particular case scenario, we're going to take it as if it's a full rehab project, so we can go through everything that needs to be done in order to renovate that property so that you can make money. Now, typically, as I discussed before, on my rehab projects, before I get started, I'm more likely going to have a porta potty out there so that people can use the restroom, a dumpster so that we can dump trash, and a temporary pole. Maybe the house was dilapidated and distressed, and maybe the electric hasn't been on at the property for God knows how long, a decade. So we need a temporary pole in order to be able to tie electric to it, so that your guys who are working for you can use electricity for their tools. If you don't have a temporary pole, then you have to have a generator. If you don't have a generator, you can rent one at Home Depot as well, but they need electric at your project so that they can do the work. And then a container outside that you can hold some of the material that you buy from Home Depot, as opposed to going back and forth to Home Depot every day. You just pile it up with everything that you may need, at least most of the stuff, put a nice lock on it so that no one steals your material, and you can move forward. First thing you're going to do is the demo hauling. And again, we want to make sure we have a dumpster outside. Now, you want to make sure that you haul all the junk inside many of these properties, because when you buy them, there's probably going to be junk inside of them. So that's the first thing, because you want your guys to be able to move around that project and do their work, and if there's debris and trash everywhere, it's going to be very challenging. So they want to haul away all the debris that's inside the property. In addition to that, you want to start off by doing your demo. Any of the walls that need to be torn down, any of the old cabinetry, and or the old toilets, all that stuff needs to be demoed and put in the dumpster. If you don't have a dumpster, then there's typically those people in your city that haul junk. Just call them. They'll haul all the junk and debris away from the property and to the dump site. Roof is the second thing you want to do. Make sure you have a roof, because there's no reason for you to get started doing work on the property if the roof is bad. Therefore, you may do drywall, whatever the case may be, and it's just going to get leaked. You're going to have problems because the roof is going to leak, and therefore it's going to damage your floors or damage the walls, etc. So the roof is the first thing that you want to do when you're rehabbing a house. After that, you want to make sure you do your framing inside. Your framing and your windows and your door. Your framing as far as it being old rotted wood. If you're going to frame up an addition, or if you're going to frame up a wall because it's bad, framing and your windows and your doors is important. And masonry, let's say it's a concrete block house, you may need to put new blocks. Maybe there's some issues with the blocks that are there. You need to replace them. So you want to do your framing and then the kind of masonry work, if it's a block home, to make sure that you take care of any kind of necessary damage to the property. Windows and doors is going to be the next thing. Number 5 is going to be your electric and HVAC and your plumbing rough in. Again, rough in is when you're doing all the preliminary rough-in electric. And then that's going to be inspected by an inspector for electric, plumbing, and HVAC. And then when they give you the okay that everything has been done correctly, then you can go ahead and cover that up. So you're going to have your plumber run all of his plumbing pipes, your HVAC guy is going to run all of his duct work, your electrician's going to run all the wire, and then you're going to have an inspection. That's called rough-in. So you're going to have a rough-in electric, HVAC, and plumbing. Then you're going to have your pre-wiring of your alarm system. You have a pre-wiring alarm system. If it's a smart home, you want to run all those wires for that particular technology just to make sure that all those wires are in place before you put the drywall on. And then after that, you're going to do your insulation. You got to do insulation on all the exterior walls. You have to do insulation in the attic. You're going to do your insulation. After the insulation, then you can put your drywall up. Put your drywall up at that particular time. Now, some people like to get a texture, you know, after you do your drywall. Some of them may want just a smooth drywall. It's your preference. Depends on what works for you in that market and what people like. But that's going to be done after you put the drywall on. And typically your contractor who does the drywall is going to give you a price to do the drywall and to do the texture if you're doing some kind of knockdown or texture, whatever the case may be. After that, what you're going to do is you're going to do your interior paint. You're going to paint the inside of the house. Then you're going to do your cabinets in your kitchen and your bathrooms. You're going to do the cabinets after that part. But typically you're not going to do your cabinets specifically in the bathrooms until you do your tile in the bathrooms first. So you do maybe your cabinets in the kitchen, but then later on you do the cabinets in the bathroom if you have cabinets as well. But you want to do your tile first. Then you go do your flooring. You go do your flooring, the hardwood floor tile. Now what I don't do is I don't do any carpet until last, until everything's pretty much done. Then I put my carpet. But if it's hardwood floors or tile, I'll go ahead and put the hardwood floor or tile down, and then we'll roll paper and we'll tape it up just so people have a chance to walk, so you don't damage the floors with people coming in and out the property and making them dirty and just wearing out the floors. And then you do your trim, you do your baseboards or your crown molding. That's referred to as trim. And then after you do your trim, you do your final HVAC, electric, plumbing. That's when you're gonna put on your fixtures, your shower faucets. You put on your electric switches and electric plates, and your plumbing. You put the toilets and the sinks and the vanities, all that kind of stuff will be at that particular time. Now you got to make sure that you have a final inspection for your HVAC, electric, and plumbing, whereas the city inspectors are going to come out and inspect it as well, and then they're going to sign off saying that that work has been done successfully and done right. And then you're going to do your outside paint. You know, if you haven't done it already, outside paint, your fascias, soffit, your gutters. Then you're going to do your punch-out list. There's always a punch-out list. Whenever all the work is done, you're going to have somebody, either yourself or somebody who works for you, go around and just look at everything that hasn't been done, and that's going to be referred to as the punch-out list, and then that work is going to be done. And then you're going to do all your landscaping on the outside. You're going to do your sod. You're going to do your mulch, your flowers, all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to do your cleanup. You're going to clean out the house. And then at that time, you do your carpet. You do your carpet, and then you do your clean out. Then you're going to list it on the market. Hopefully, if you did everything right, you can make a profit. I'll see you on part number 4. Hey, I'm back again, and we're going to wrap up our level number 8, fixing and flipping, lesson number 4, recap. We're going to conclude with this part 4 and move on next week to buy and hold. Now that we've been able to learn how to bird dog, wholesale, and fix and flip, now we're going to park that money into income producing property so that you can generate cash flow every month into your pocket. So, before and after pictures are great for marketing. Absolutely they are. Make sure you take before and after pictures of your projects, because that will help you market that property and just to have in your portfolio so that when you're going out to maybe raise capital from investors, you can show them your work. Number 2, flipping is great in areas that are appreciating. Absolutely. The more appreciation you're having in your city, the better chances you're going to have at making sure that you make a profit. Number 3, make sure your market comparables are accurate. You need to make sure, because when there's a lot of flipping frenzy going on, sometimes it can screw the comparables. So you want to make sure that the sold comps that you're using to justify how much you're going to pay for the property, how much you're going to invest in the renovation, and how much you can ultimately sell it for so that you can make a profit. Make sure that you use the correct comps and make a little bit of adjustment, maybe 5 or 10%, just to make sure lower than what they are. If it's 200,000, maybe 180. Just be careful, because when there's a lot of flipping going on, you can see a lot of properties sell at prices that are astronomical and don't make any sense. So make sure that you leave some room just in case things change a little bit in the economy, or just properties are inflated right now. So be very careful. Number 4, every home upgrade should help increase the value of the home. Absolutely. But kitchens and bathrooms are ones that will help sell the house. But typically when you upgrade any part of the house, it's going to help ultimately in the sale of the house and help with the increase of value and force appreciation upwards. Number 5, should I model my business from the success of hedge funds? We hear about a lot of hedge funds and private equity funds going into these cities and buying up a lot of properties, and they have their own model, and their model is based on having a lot of cash that they can dump into these properties. So do not base your particular fix and flip model on what they're doing. Base it on your financial resources and your manpower and resources that you have, because those guys are in a different space because they have a lot of money. So just be careful. Model your business after what I taught you here on level number 8, and if you do so, I am confident that you will make money. Hey, I'm Kenny Russian, and I will see you on level number 7. Bye-bye.
Level 8, Fix and Flip Homes. Lesson 4 Quiz.